Greetings, divine blessed loved ones. My name is Paisley Parvati Devi, and I would love to welcome you to the first video of this series about the Yamas and Niyamas. So if you've been with me over on my regular Facebook timeline, I've been sharing every week from this book, The Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice by Deborah Adele. And I read through the full book over on my timeline, and I've been saying for the past few weeks now that once we finish the book, which we did, I would be moving the series over here to this page, Liviti Yogini business page. And so this week I'm very excited that we will be restarting at the beginning of the book, and today is just a little bit of an introduction. I'll be reading the preface and the introduction for this book, and I'll just be talking a little bit more about what to expect from the series this time around, and hope that you all will enjoy following along. So taking a moment wherever you are, standing, sitting, if it's practical and safe, bringing the eyes to a gentle close, coming inward, and just taking a few deep breaths in through the nose, full deep breath, and exhale through the mouth with a sigh. Ha! Again, inhale deeply through the nose, and exhale, ha, sigh it out. One more time, inhale, and exhale, ha. Feeling into your heart space. You can even bring one hand over the heart and bring the other hand to rest on top. We give thanks for the motherland of India for bringing us this wonderful knowledge. We acknowledge and honor and share immense gratitude for the teachers, practitioners, yogis, monks who have studied this knowledge, written it down, passed it down through the generations, and also for the people who brought this knowledge to the West, so that we could have the privilege and the opportunity to study it today. Acknowledging all of those practitioners who have come before us, and just making space in our hearts and in our minds for this transmission today. And as always, if anything does not resonate for you right away, or you just feel like you're not understanding fully, no worries. Just simply do your best to listen with an open mind and an open heart, and trust that whatever you need will come through for you, and it will make sense eventually. If it doesn't make sense today, the beautiful thing about this philosophy is that it is circular knowledge, so we keep coming back to it, studying the concepts again and again, and every time we come back to a particular concept, we can understand it a little bit deeper. And I wanted to just pull a card really quickly for today. I pre-shuffled these tarot cards that are on my altar here before I got on the video, so I'm just going to pick one. So we have the Teaching Lodge of the Arrows. And in this deck, the arrows are swords, so it's an energy of ambition and some might say force, or striving towards something, moving forward, pushing forward with our goals. And the Teaching Lodge is the Queen, so divine feminine energy here, energy of the Queen who knows what she wants and needs, is not afraid to go for it, and perseveres with a strength and ambition, the fiery warrioress energy. That is our energy for this reading today. All right, again, let's go ahead and dive into The Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice by Deborah Adele. Starting with the preface. I have a favorite mug that sits on my office desk filled with pens and pencils. This mug was given to me by one of my brothers many years ago, and I still look at it daily and chuckle. The mug says, things to do today. 1. Stop the arms race. 2. Floss. I mention the mug because not only does it keep me tuned to both the lofty ideals of my life as well as the practical components, but it also speaks to the essence of the Yamas and Niyamas. These 10 guidelines sit as both a vision of the possibilities of human existence, as well as providing the practical guidance to make skillful movement, moment-to-moment choices in our daily lives. We all want to live well. Let's face it, at the end of the day, it's not how much you have or how much you have accomplished that counts. What matters is how well you have participated in your own life, both the ordinary routines and the extraordinary surprises. It's how you feel inside when you lay your head on the pillow. Does a feeling of joy and well-being accompany you to bed? Or does your head touch the pillow with thoughts of anger, bitterness, helplessness, frustration, self-disappointment, or whiny complaints? Being human is a complicated thing. We live within myriad confusing choices and contradictions. As human beings living among other life forms, we need to navigate our own personal needs within those of the community. As spirit hanging out in a human body, we need to live within the potential of our limitless dreams and our limited physical reality. In the midst of our indecision and confusion, these guidelines are like helping hands moving us deeper into our own authenticity and into a life that is richer and fuller than we could ever imagine, simply because we are living with more skill and awareness. This may sound easy, but it is not. How do we gain mastery over our choices when life seems to toss us around with its many ups and downs, demands, and voices telling us that we need what we need and what is wrong with us? How do we gain skill when we find ourselves continuing to do what we promised ourselves we would never do again? How do we gain skill when we just screamed at our child or our partner and now we feel lousy? How do we gain skill when we feel stuck in a dead-end job that is sucking us dry? How do we gain skill when we just dug into the chocolate and now we're beating ourselves up with messages of self-loathing? Gaining the skill to choose our attitude, to choose what we think, and to choose what we do may be the grandest adventure we can take as a human being. In the film Last Holiday, Georgia Bird, shocked by discovering she only has 3 weeks to live, decides to make her dream life of possibilities into reality. In an amazing shift of character from a timid woman stuck in her perceived realities of life, she suddenly bursts forth boldly and claims the life she has always wanted for herself. It doesn't need to take a death sentence for us to change. We have the choice to burst forth boldly and claim our lives in this very moment, and yoga's 10 guidelines, the Yamas and Niyamas, can support that very leap into the life that we seek. Under their guidance, the turbulence and drama that are often a familiar part of our life begin to disappear. The result of a skillfully lived life is nothing less than joy. Not the kind that comes when things are going our way and disappears just as quickly, but the kind that bubbles up from within. The kind of joy that comes from our own sense of mastery in life, no matter what life brings. We are ready. Maybe there is nothing to figure out ahead of time. There is only a life to live well, or not. Which are you choosing for yourself? So this is a little taste of why we study the Yamas and Niyamas, and now she'll describe more about what the Yamas and Niyamas actually are. The Yamas and Niyamas are foundational to all yogic thought. Yoga is a sophisticated system that extends far beyond doing yoga postures. It is literally a way of living. Yoga is designed to bring you more and more awareness of not only your body, but also your thoughts. The teachings are a practical, step-by-step methodology that bring understanding to your experiences, while at the same time pointing the way to the next experience. They are like a detailed map, telling you where you are and how to look for the next landmark. They facilitate taking ownership of your life and directing it towards the fulfillment that you seek. the Yamas and Niyamas may be thought of as guidelines, tenets, ethical disciplines, precepts, or restraints and observances. I often think of them as jewels because they are the rare gems of wisdom that give direction to a well-lived and joyful life. In yogic philosophy, these jewels sit as the first two limbs of the Eightfold Path. The first 5 jewels are referred to as yamas, a Sanskrit word which translates literally into the word restraints. And the last 5 jewels are referred to as the niyamas or observances. So before I go on, basically the yamas and niyamas are the first 2 of what is called the 8 limbs of yoga, and she describes the 8 limbs of yoga as, it's Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga is a style of asana that you may have heard. That's not what we're talking about here. Ashtanga yoga in the traditional sense is the philosophy of yoga, the traditional style or philosophy of learning yoga, and the Eightfold Path, or the 8 parts of yoga, comes from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, so these ancient scriptures of yoga, right? And so there are 8 parts of yoga. When we practice, the average person in the West is familiar with doing yoga, like when we go to a yoga studio, a yoga class, and we're doing the poses. So that is one part of the 8 limbs of yoga, and only one small part. So I often explain this to people that while we know that in the West as yoga, actually it's only one of 8 parts, and the rest of the 8 parts include pranayama or breathing practices, and then the yamas and niyamas, which are the ethical guidelines, and then the last 4 are basically different stages of meditation, culminating in samadhi, which is the sense of unity, ecstatic bliss, nirvana, enlightenment, union with the oneness, the divinity of nature, and all of that. So the yamas and niyamas, again, make up the first 2 limbs of the 8 limbs of yoga. They are a wonderful starting off point for anyone who's interested in studying yoga philosophy. And again, the yamas, the first 5 of these guidelines, are considered to be, it could translate into restraints. It could be considered as actions or behaviors to be restrained in order to attain inner peace. Could also be, the first 5 are loosely translated into nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-excess, and non-possessiveness. And they relate more to how we deal with the outside world and our interactions with other people. And then the last 5, the niyamas, could be said that they are actions to be cultivated in order to attain inner peace. And these, the niyamas relate more to the internal experience, our own relationship with ourselves, and our internal experience. And the last 5, the niyamas, can be loosely translated into purity, contentment, self-discipline, self-study, and surrender. So many guides to ethical conduct may leave us feeling overwhelmed with concepts or boxed in by rule sets. Yoga's guidelines do not limit us from living life, but rather they begin to open life up to us more and more fully, and they flow easily into one another in ways that are practical and easy to grasp. So that's why I really love yoga and yoga philosophy. It's anti-dogmatic. It's actually not a religion. A lot of people think that it is because it's closely associated often with Hinduism and Buddhism, and I love to share that while yoga can be practiced with any religion at all, or no religion, you can be an atheist and practice yoga. Yoga itself is actually a discipline. So it's a set of practical practices, and then it's also a science. There is a creation story that somewhat parallels the Big Bang Theory, and you can really get deep into the heady philosophy, but basically you can choose to practice yoga with the idea of God, the divine, a creator, a higher power, something like that, or you can choose to practice yoga from a purely non-theistic standpoint of just looking at like neuroscience and the brain and physical reality and cosmology and just all of these beautiful scientific concepts as well. So yoga itself is non-dogmatic, and all of these concepts that I'm sharing with you, the Yamas and Niyamas, are open to interpretation to an extent. Yes, we have translations coming to us from the scriptures and from the many sages and monks and lay people like you and I who have commented and expounded upon their own interpretations of the Yamas and Niyamas, but each guideline or each precept is open to your interpretation through your own personal study and your self-reflection through your experience. So as you work on these concepts and integrate them into your daily lives, as you embody them and reflect on them, you can come to an understanding of what each concept means for you in your life, and you can really dive deeply into all of the many levels, gross levels, down into more subtle and subtle realms of the idea of each yama and niyama. So the entire book will give us detailed examples and practical information about what the yamas and niyamas each mean, like how they can be represented in our daily lives. So I'll just go ahead and run through. She gives like a little mini snippet of each of the yamas and niyamas in this introduction so that you know what to expect from the rest of the series. So the first yama is nonviolence. It's ahimsa, which translates into nonviolence, and it's said that if you can fully embody nonviolence, you've actually mastered all of the 10 yamas and niyamas. So again, this is a circular philosophy. You can keep coming back into each concept again and again and again, which is why I've made this commitment to continuously study this and share this with you guys, because in my lineage we have a saying, Baba Haridas, the monk right here, said, teach to learn. So I am teaching you because I am in the process of learning, and hopefully we can deepen our understanding together. So nonviolence, the first jewel, sits as the foundation to the other guidelines, which in turn enhance the meaning and flesh out the richness of nonviolence. Nonviolence is a stance of right relationship with others and with self that is neither self-sacrifice nor self-aggrandizement. This tenet guides us to live together, share the goods, and do what we want without causing harm to others or ourselves. Truthfulness, the second jewel, is partnered with nonviolence. The marriage of these two guidelines creates a powerful dance between two seeming opposites. We can appreciate this statement when we begin to practice speaking our truth without causing harm to others. As partners, truthfulness keeps nonviolence from being a wimpy cop-out, while nonviolence keeps truthfulness from being a brutal weapon. When they are dancing perfectly together, they create a spectacular sight. Their union is nothing short of profound love in its fullest expression. And when there is cause for disharmony or confusion between the two, truthfulness bows to nonviolence. First and foremost, do no harm. Nonstealing, the third jewel, guides our attempts and tendencies to look outward for satisfaction. Often our dissatisfaction with ourselves and our lives leads to this outward gaze, with a tendency to steal what is not rightfully ours. We steal from the earth, we steal from others, and we steal from ourselves. We steal from our own opportunity to grow ourselves into the person who has the right to have the life they want. Non-excess, the fourth jewel, has been interpreted by many to mean celibacy or abstinence. Although this could certainly be one interpretation of non-excess, its literal meaning is walking with God. Whatever your beliefs about the divine, this tenet implies an awareness of sacredness in all our actions and an attentiveness to each moment that moves us into a stance of holiness. From this place of sacredness, the boundary is set to leave excess behind and live within the limits of enough. If we have been practicing non-stealing, we will automatically find ourselves primed to practice this guideline. Non-possessiveness, the fifth jewel and last of the guidelines known as the yamas, liberates us from greed. It reminds us that clinging to people and material objects only weighs us down and makes life a heavy and disappointing experience. When we practice letting go, we move ourselves towards freedom and an enjoyment of life that is expansive and fresh. If we have begun to live the first 5 jewels well, we may notice that our time is freeing up and there is more breathing space in our lives. The days begin to feel a little lighter and easier. Work is more enjoyable, and our relationships with others are a little smoother. We like ourselves a little more. There is a lighter gait to our step. We realize that we need less than we previously thought. We are having more fun. As we begin our study of the final 5 jewels, or niyamas, we move into a more subtle realm and into an interior resting place, a place that becomes like Sabbath for us. So again, the first 5 tenets of the yamas, the actions to be restrained in order to attain inner peace, are nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-excess, and non-possessiveness. Moving into the niyamas, purity, the 6th jewel, is an invitation to cleanse our bodies, our attitudes, and our actions. It asks us to clean up our act so we can be more available to the qualities in life that we are seeking. This precept also invites us to purify how we relate to what is uppermost in the moment. It is the quality of being aligned in our relationship with others, with the task at hand, and with ourselves. Contentment, the 7th jewel, cannot be sought. All the things we do to bring fulfillment to ourselves actually interfere with our own satisfaction and well-being. Contentment can only be found in acceptance and appreciation of what is in the moment. The more we learn to leave what is alone, the more contentment will quietly and steadily find us. Self-discipline, the 8th jewel, literally is translated to heat or burning, and can be translated as catharsis or austerities. It is anything which impacts us to change. Change makes us spiritual heavyweights in the game of life. It is preparation for our own greatness. We all know how easy it is to be a person of high character when things are going our way, but what about those times life deals us a dark card? Who are you in those moments? This guideline is an invitation to purposefully seek out refining your own strength of character, and it asks, can you trust the heat? Can you trust the path of change itself? Self-study, the 9th jewel, is a pursuit of knowing ourselves, studying what drives us and what shapes us, because these things literally are the cause of the lives we are living. Self-study asks us to look at the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves and realize that these stories create the reality of our lives. Ultimately, this tenet invites us to release the false and limiting self-perception our ego has imposed on us and know the truth of our divine selves. Surrender, the 9th jewel, reminds us that life knows what to do better than we do. Through devotion, trust, and active engagement, we can receive each moment with an open heart. Rather than paddling upstream, surrender is an invitation to go with the underlying current, enjoy the ride, and take in the view. In this book, each yama and niyama has been given its own chapter in which the philosophy of the guideline is woven with practical examples and stories. At the end of each chapter, I've included a list of questions as a guide for reflection. I encourage you to journal and/or form a study group to help deepen your commitment to your learning and to yourself. So the author is recommending that we form a study group, and that is what I'm doing with you guys. So if this resonated for you, please give me a like, a heart, please share, tag anyone that you think could benefit from this series. And be sure that you like this page, Livity Yogini, on Facebook, because every single Tuesday I will be going live with a new reading from this book, and we will be going through all of the chapters together. So starting next week, we will dive into the first yama, which is again ahimsa, nonviolence, and that is the longest chapter in the book, so we'll do it in 2 parts. And if you're interested in continuing to follow along, just make sure that you are staying in touch with me. And like I said, we do it every Tuesday, 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. EST. And right now I'm planning on downloading all of the videos and posting them to YouTube as I go live and as we go through the book together. So there will be an easy library for you guys to access, and you can always go there and check out past videos. But this is the first video because we're restarting the series, and I'm opening up the series for you guys. So it's an invitation for you to embark with me on this adventure. And at the end of every video, I will be sharing some different self-reflection questions and opportunities opportunities for you, because at the end of every chapter she does list like some little take-home assignments or homework that you can use to incorporate each of the concepts into your daily lives. So again, today we just did the introduction, so there are no questions today, but this gives you a little bit of an idea of what to expect moving forward. So I would love to have you all along the ride along for the ride with me, and I'm always happy to hear your reflections, experiences, thoughts on everything that we share together. And if you would like to go deeper with me and learn more about the 8 limbs of yoga, I would love to have you over on my Patreon page. That's why the title of this page is Live It to Yogini. Join us on Patreon. Now this series is free. This is my selfless service, my study group that I feel called to steward, but if you would like to learn even more and go even deeper with yoga philosophy, yoga practices, and a little bit about Ayurveda and healthy recipes and lifestyle tips, things like that, I share all of that over on my Patreon. So it's patreon.com/liveittoyogini, and for just $3.33 per month, you can have access to all of this wonderful library of content that I've been compiling for you. And I did do a 2-part video series talking all about the 8 limbs of yoga. So again, the Yamas and Niyamas are the first 2 of the 8 limbs. So thank you all so much for viewing and for your presence, time, and energy. I love you, and I'm sending you so much love and blessings. Let's Om out. So exhaling the breath, and deep belly breath. Inhale for Om. Inhale. Om. Namaste. See you all next week.